You look like Sean Lennon. Has anyone ever told you that?
Does
Sean
it?
Lynn.
Do you know who John Lennon is?
Oh, John Lennon.
Sean
Well,
Lennon is
Yeah.
son.
Sean Lennon is John Lennon's son,
I don't
and you
Oh,
see
look
it.
like
okay.
Sean Lennon.
I
Huh?
don't see it.
Okay.
Did you just
I, don't-
Google
I
Sean
haven't
Lennon?
heard that before.
I just
I
googled
am
Sean
part.
Lennon. I don't see it.
I'm
Oh,
part. I'm part
maybe when he
Asian,
was
so
younger.
When he was younger, a younger Sean Lennon.
All right, maybe,
Sean Lennon.
maybe.
Younger Sean Lennon, a really young Sean Lennon. He's older now. He's more scruffy now.
All right. Sure. Why not?
You can see we keep it real serious here.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Look. I calls it like I sees it, John. No. Welcome back, man. It's been some years.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
Thanks
started.
thanks
I didn't
for-
realize we were live. How about that?
Oh, we are what?
Oh,
No.
hey.
I mean, it's not streaming, so
Oh
We should
yeah,
pick up.
it starts automatically. Well, I guess we're just gonna do a little bit of behind the scenes. How you want us to introduce you, man? Founder of
Um,
BitWage.
Yeah, you can say CEO and co-founder of BitWage.
Nothing like fancy, like some people like to be the chief initiation officer, the chief creative visionary officer, like just straight up founder and CEO.
Yeah. Sounds sort of get fancy.
how about
What is
serial
that?
guest on the Bitcoin podcast?
Yeah. Can
Yeah.
somebody turn
Like it.
their super fan off?
She'll close the door in a second. I'll just mute myself.
It's not me recording.
As
I didn't
you
mute it?
No.
Oh, then this microphone.
Wow. Yeah. It's been 4 years since I was last on.
I
just
mean
been
this as a
pre-op, okay.
compliment. You haven't aged a minute.
That sound better now?
Yeah.
You do.
I have a different hat on. Now it's a beanie.
Yeah, you're at a meeting now? I'm looking at it. You were on twice. You were on episode 15 and episode 137.
Oh, it's
So
on episode
6 years.
15.
Yeah, you were on
Oh,
episode
wow.
15.
Yeah, man. You were one
6
of our
years
very
ago.
first.
Oh, yeah.
That was back when we had a really personal hand in plucking our guests because we were doing it all. And we found your company back then because I was like, oh, this closes the loop. Now people can get paid in crypto. Well, there you go.
You and
the
Carrie
fu-
Scott.
The future is ours. And
Yeah,
obviously,
I'm-
it didn't quite go like that. But
I'm looking, and it's like I see BitWage performed $1 million in payroll transactions since we last talked, and now we performed 100 million. So that's pretty.
no,
Dang.
That's a pretty fun evolution.
that's a 100x. I know you feel good. I feel good.
Let's get the
Yeah.
show on the road. Let's do it.
Anything we can't talk about?
Talk about anything.
We
At
can
least
talk
on my
about the
side.
lawsuit.
What lawsuit?
Just kidding. I was a test, and you passed. You passed. No, all right. Let's get
It's
started.
rude.
guys.
It's fucking rude.
When you do that to adults, they're like, "Oh shit, am I being sued?" No. All right. In 10. Hey everybody, welcome to another one of the Bitcoin podcasts interviews. This one's special. We're streaming it. We're streaming it to Patreon. So if you're a patron, if you're one of those lucky people that were like, you know what, I'm going to give them a little bit of money every month because I'm picking up what they're putting down. You're seeing it. You're seeing it live. You're seeing the beauty in action. If you're not a patron, what's wrong with you? All right, now, Johnathan Chester, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, happy to be back.
It's been 4 years. You were in our first 20 episodes, actually. Episode 15 of the Bitcoin podcast, which was many, many moons ago. For those of you core listeners, you're like, oh man, I remember that episode. For those of you that don't, you need to go back and listen to it. But Johnathan is the founder and CEO of BitWage. So welcome back, man. It's been some time.
Yeah. It's been a long while. I mean, 4 years is like a millennia in Bitcoin years.
Especially for owning a
Absolutely.
company in
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think crypto alone is responsible for at least 2/3 of my gray hairs in the past 8 years.
and we don't even own
So,
companies.
yeah,
We just talk about it.
yeah. So,
Must be nice.
so real quick, I think just for all the new listeners we know that are listening, um, what is BitWage? Just like if you had to give them the elevator pitch.
Yeah, so we are a Bitcoin and crypto payroll invoicing and benefits services company. Um, we have two main products. We have a B2B product where a company signs up, can offer the benefit of Bitcoin or crypto partial salary to their employees or freelancers, and also pay their global freelancers using Bitcoin, crypto, stable coins with a single click of a button. We also have a B2C product, which allows anyone who's getting paid, an employee, a freelancer, gig worker, to receive any portion of their salary in Bitcoin or other crypto. So we get people who are getting paid from Uber, Airbnb, from Facebook, Google. People have gotten their stimulus checks through us.
Oh,
U.S. Navy and the World Health Organization. It's really a whole grab bag of people who've been using us. We've been around since 2014. Last time I was on the show, I was just looking at this. We processed about $1 million of payroll volume. We have now processed over $100 million in payroll volume, have over 50,000 registered users and 2,000 registered companies using us.
woo!
How's
That's
that
sexy,
work?
man.
How does that work?
Wait a second. Wait, pause. What kind of question is that?
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable question. That's like the first question I would ask. The first question I did ask. How does that work? Like, what are the pipes? What are the tubes you're going through to to allow both like businesses jump through the hoops of paying people crypto or partially crypto, and for an individual to say, you know what, I would like to receive a portion of my salary in crypto or payment in crypto, depending on whatever I'm doing, but my employer doesn't offer that, and they go through you instead. How does that work?
Sure. Yeah. So, the way I like to think about it is that we are connecting what is traditionally a very old and conservative industry, which is the payroll and HR services industries. And we're connecting that with the fast moving, highly disruptive crypto industry. And we do it separately, depending on whether it's the B2B or the B2C product. I'll start with the B2C because I'm sure a lot of your viewers would be interested in that. The way it works is you sign up and we actually generate a bank account for you. This bank account can be used to receive any kinds of salary or income payments from businesses. And then you connect that to whatever service is going to pay you. So you can connect it to your payroll provider, to the Airbnb, the Upworks, any sort of freelance marketplace. When the funds hit the account, you have preferences on where you want that money to go out. So you could say, I want 50% Bitcoin, 30% Ether, 20% dollars. So when the funds hit our account, we have your wallets and your bank accounts. We do all the conversions and then we send it directly to your wallet of choice, whether it's a hardware wallet or a mobile wallet, or you're having it on like a Coinbase or Binance or really whatever you want. So that same mechanic on the output side exists on the B2B product, but the way that we integrate with the payroll system is a little bit different. So we have integrations with the various payroll systems, either automated or on an operational basis. And soon we're going to have access to automated integrations to up to 90% of all the payroll providers out there on the market. And you just come in, you connect your payroll provider to our system, and then we're able to have the employees create deductions um, with the payroll provider, and then each pay period we get the report of those deductions, and then create a transaction for you to just pay. So what does that really mean? It just means that you're an admin, you sign up, you connect your payroll provider, the employees choose what they want, and then you just pay the transaction on payday. So it becomes really, really simple and easy.
Mm.
That's hot.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be a little bit more animated than Corey. That's sexy as fuck. So as someone who deals in HR on a probably weekly basis and has been forced to learn a lot more about human resources than I ever wished to learn, that right there is like a grand slam. So my hat's off to you, sir. Like being able to man, just being able to automate that and make it an employee election is very important, right? Because those are all the questions like rattling in my head. Is like, okay, where's the compliance burden fall on? Is it automated? This compliance burden? Okay, if I'm keeping a record of every transaction, because payroll is nasty. I don't know, Corey and Jesse, are you guys familiar with like payroll, HR, that kind of stuff?
No, not at
Yeah,
all.
that's why my animation is subdued right now, because I work with payroll and this types of and compliance and jurisdictional compliance across the globe.
It's nasty.
And so like it gets real complicated the moment you start spreading out to a bunch of different jurisdictions. Is that something that you offer, or are you limited to like where these services are offered right now?
Yeah. So in terms of employee workforces, and integrations with payroll operators, it's the automation is mostly focused in the United States.
That's
When
a
we
hard one
look
to hit first,
globally,
so like good.
yeah, and then when we're focusing globally, it's typically freelancers and gig workers where there isn't such a high level of payroll burden, payroll
hmm
bureaucratic burden. So instead, that focus is really on the simplicity of making the transfer and the flexibility for the workers. Because
hmm
internationally, so the interesting thing internationally for us is that in the United States, people are really focused on mixing with a basket of crypto, but internationally, people are doing Bitcoin, stable coins in their own local currency. And the interesting thing here is stable coins, because we get a lot of people who are not traditionally um, Bitcoin crypto people, but they don't want their local currency. They want access to the dollar. So our incorporation of stable coins gives them that access. And I've always been a big believer that stable coins are just the Trojan horse for Bitcoin, really, um, because because with stable coins, what's happening is you're educating people on public private key cryptography. People are learning how to manage their public and private keys. And that's, in my opinion, actually the biggest hurdle for education. Because once you do that, um, it's probably just a matter of time for Bitcoin to look stable relative to fiat currencies. And the switch is a lot easier at that point if you already know your public private key cryptography.
That barrier to entry also is so much smoother when like say like if you're hedging and you want access to the dollar and you use a service like BitWage to get it, but you have the additional availability to take a small percentage of what you're making in like relatively more risky assets,
Yeah.
then you can slowly step your foot into that with like minimal barrier. And so in the event that that ends up paying out a lot more, then you can start to then dip your whole foot, your whole leg, jump in deep as much as you want to go, like at the slide of a button, right? As a slide of a scale, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's really really important is that like you give people what they need, and at the same time lower that barrier of entry of like starting to like think about and try out investing in these higher risk assets with like not a lot of risk, or at least not a lot of like at low amounts to them, low enough amounts to them so that they're not having to like really put forth their entire paycheck and then hope things go well, right? It's just like, oh, I'll put $5 in this paycheck and see how it goes. Or, okay, that worked out. I'll do 20 this time or whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think that there's a psychological component when you're going to buy an exchange. You're usually thinking, I want to buy a Bitcoin, or I want to buy like some amount, some percentage of a Bitcoin. And for a lot of people, it's daunting, right? The price of Bitcoin can be daunting to some people, or some of these other cryptos, right? And so what this allows people to do is, instead of thinking of it in terms of like buying an entire coin, they think of it as just a small percentage allocation of their payroll, similar to how they thought about it into their 401k, right? And I think that this is what makes the leap easy for people, is that they already do something like this for investment. Their first introduction to investment was allocation of their payroll into 401k. So it makes it easy for them to say, oh, if I just do $10 or $100 or whatever every month, I'm not putting too much of my money in, but I'm still getting in, and I'm still getting that long-term appreciation.
This is still like one of the most slept on services in all of crypto, in my opinion. Right? Like, everybody in crypto talks about closing the loop, getting paid in crypto, living that crypto life. But in reality, it's very difficult, right? I can't go to, 7-Eleven and say like, hey, give me that bag of chips, here's some wax. And he's like, what? The wax is a token. It's an NFT token, baby. It's worth real money. Take this wax, I'm taking my chips. It doesn't work that way still, right? It's still very hard. But at least you can be getting paid in crypto and kind of automate that. And this is a huge service, in my opinion. But I got a real question here, not just to be your cheerleader in this interview. So, where were you when you had this idea? Like, I want to know when it like struck you like lightning. You're like, wait a second. I can help people get paid in crypto, and I know how to automate it. Where were you? Do you remember? I know you had to remember, because it's a great idea, obviously.
So I was working at Oracle, prior to BitWage. I was really kind of a cog in their sales machine, and it wasn't that exciting. For me, the lightning strike was more around my decision to just get into Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency world, right? I watched a TED talk on the future of money, and Bitcoin was just one of these things. This was back in 2013, and I fell in love with the technology. In fact, I spent a month doing everything I could to learn about it. And I came out this obsessed Bitcoin guy, telling everyone that they've got to buy this thing. The price of Bitcoin was $300 at the time, and everyone thought I was insane, right?
So which two of your friends thank you the most right now? Because I know only about 2 of them listen.
yeah, exactly. But the thing is, I ended up connecting with my co-founder, who's also this crazy Bitcoin guy at work. So we got together and we're thinking, what exists in Bitcoin and what doesn't. And at the time, smart contracts were not really a thing. Ethereum white paper had not come out, and so we were just looking at the Bitcoin economy, and what we noticed, as you had mentioned before, is that there wasn't a fully closed financial loop, right? We had merchant processors for collecting Bitcoin, we had wallets and exchanges for getting in and holding, but there was no way for there to be a full loop from merchants back to employees. And we said, okay, let's be the first ones to do this. Let's actually, let's quit our comfortable, boring job and enter the world of Bitcoin. So we quit our jobs and we went at it. And I still remember, I was talking to some family members about the project, and they didn't really believe in Bitcoin at the time. So when I told them about it, they're like, "Oh, I'm sure your next company will be a real hit." And
glad you're getting that experience, and you're going to fail real quick, so your next one works out.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But, you know, against all odds, it worked out. And actually, about those friends of mine, they actually got pissed off because they bought at like $1,000, and that was the height of a bubble in 2014.
Mm.
So for like 4 years, they hated me, and they ended up selling like to get their cash back when the price eventually appreciated.
Ugh.
So
That's a
sorry
tough
to
one.
those two friends that are listening.
Only two of mine listened, and right now they're pretty happy. So, um, do you have an "I'm sorry" speech prepared?
I think that was it.
Everybody who runs a company knows. They're like, no, not that. That's not, so sorry. Let me fill you in. So, as we've interviewed more leaders of companies over the years, uh, we found out that certain aspects of what they build are centralized. Certain aspects of what they do are a little bit guised to the public, probably for good reason. But when what happens in that guise ends up hurting the consumer, you got to have an "I'm sorry" speech ready as the CEO. You get on there and you're like, I'm sorry, I apologize. So I guess in a nutshell, what I'm asking is, are there any things in your system that consumers have to be wary about, and you have to warn them ahead of time so that they don't hurt themselves?
Well, that's a good question. Well, um, we aren't a fully decentralized service, right? We have a full KYC onboarding that customers have to go through to use us. So while you don't need a bank account, you actually don't need a bank account to use us. You still need to go through a KYC process.
Mm,
Some people have unbanked themselves through us, and but uh, I guess in general, I guess that's the main thing that people have to go through KYC, and it's a little bit different than a traditional exchange because a traditional exchange, you are receiving money, you are sending money and receiving money to accounts that you own, whereas in our service, it's a third party that's sending the money
hmm
to you. And as a result, when you sign up, especially to our B2C service, we ask for information on who your employer is, um, just so that we know that. But it's
hmm
pretty light. It's a pretty light thing for users to have to onboard and
I mean,
provide.
there's no way you could run a business that grows in America that didn't require those types of things. Like, can you imagine? Like, oh, we don't ask anything, don't need anything whatsoever. Like, one, no one's gonna trust you. To
Yeah.
like, oh, I just sent my paycheck to this hole in the internet, and I hope it shows up. Like, it's, I hope the assets I asked for show up, or the opposite. Like,
No risk,
I
no
don't, I don't,
reward,
you
baby.
know what I mean? It's just, just people kind of want that, but it's a bit ridiculous when you're talking about salaried paychecks.
Put
Like,
my paycheck in that box over there.
Jesse, I have
Nice.
another question, but Jesse, do you have something?
Yeah, how did you connect all the right people, I guess, to build this out, right? Because everything starts like from an idea, like between you and your co-founder. How did you connect to the right people to kind of figure out the inner workings of um, how pay is distributed to different people through different service providers and all of that stuff? Like, what was the legwork?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that uh, there the experience is built up over years, right? I quit my job to go full time on this in 2014. So what, 7 years? It's been 7 years. Um, in the very beginning, I still remember in the very beginning, it, John, my co-founder, and I would meet up, and he was a Stanford alum, so he was still living on campus with his girlfriend, so we would actually meet up at conference rooms at Stanford to work on this. And some of the earliest things that I did is I put out job applications, um, looking for. Oh no, actually, the first thing I did was watching videos of different companies talking with the U.S. Senate to learn more about the regulatory side of crypto. Um, so our first hire ended up being in compliance as a result of that. But we put out job applications. We attended job fairs. We got some press from that, and talking to all sorts of people back then. Lots of people were trying to get in on the ground actually, and we ended up finding several people who wanted to contribute, and they helped. After that, we joined an accelerator called Plug and Play, which was also very helpful in terms of connecting us with VCs, so we could understand that, connecting us within innovation groups of corporations. We could understand how that worked. So we got connected into like the whole sphere of the startup innovation industry through the Plug and Play Accelerator. I think through there was a company that had gone through the accelerator prior to us, where there was a guy in a crypto company who previously had payroll experience, who ran like a payroll company, and so he mentored us for about a year, to help educate us there. But then after that, it really came from going to the customer, asking enough customers until we found a few of them who were crazy enough to really want this in 2014, and based on what they needed is how we created how we sculpted the product and sculpted the proposals. Over time, my knowledge has become just much stronger, talking with law firms and building out more products. I spent a year focusing on creating a 401k product, which we have an operational beta for.
My guy.
So you can have Bitcoin in a 401k, and eventually you're going to be able to have like a really amazing single sign-on process for Bitcoin payroll and Bitcoin 401k for you to manage on our system. But in learning about that whole process, I think I really got to understand the ins and outs of the world of deductions. And our business payroll product was not really that used from 2014 until the end of 2019. It was mostly our B2C product that was being used. And in 2020, with COVID sparking crypto and remote work, we started getting all this interest on the B2B side. And by then I had already done all my work with the 401k to intimately understand how pre and post tax deductions work, and how various systems and benefits interact with the payroll system. That has enabled us to build to the state that we're in today.
Man, based on that answer, was you thinking back of your former self when you got started? Were you in over your head? Like, were you naive when you tried to bite this off, and like, did you jump into water that was too deep, and now you're kind of happy you did because you've gotten to where you are?
Yeah, I was very naive. When I first started, we applied to 3 different accelerators, and I thought we were going to get into all 3. And part of my belief was, okay, let's quit our job, because if we don't quit our job, they will realize we're not serious enough and we won't get into them. So I quit my job, John quit his job, and we were expecting to get into all three accelerators. The first one rejected us, and then the second one rejected us. And when the first 2 out of 3 reject you right after you quit your job, it's a little bit worrisome, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I now look back and I understand how early stage we were and how inexperienced we were, and how crazy it was for us to have quit our job to build this. But we got into the 3rd accelerator, and that was so important because we ended up getting some funding from that helped us keep going. Then, like a year and a half later, again, we were almost out of funds, and probably we were 1 to 2 months away from completely running out of funds when we got investment from Draper Associates, and that led to a $650,000 fundraise, which was so important to get us to where we are today. So there were a few moments in the beginning where BitWage almost didn't exist, and we got by just in time. But I'm very thankful for where we are now that we have a real business that's affecting people and helping people.
That's nuts. Did you guys like live off of ramen or something? Like when the
I was
funds get
like,
really low, you know?
what's your favorite flavor,
Like-
bro? I know you got one.
Well, luckily when I was at Plug and Play, they had like free meals for lunch for us as part of the accelerator. So I got that free lunch.
So you just ate
every
once a
day.
day?
Yeah, free lunch. No, well, I got to eat other food. I mean, but I definitely didn't. I mean, I was working at Oracle before, so I had some savings, so I was able to live off of that for a little bit. But yeah, I was cooking at home every day. I literally did not go out at all. Like my only one day a week did I have free time, and basically the way that free time would work is my friend would come over to my place and we'd have a bottle of Jim Beam and we would drink and play video games, and that was like my 1 day a
It's a
week
good time off. That's a
social
good
life.
day.
That is a good time.
for like a year. But yeah, so it was really hard living, but I was so passionate and inspired back then that all I wanted to do was work hard every day, 10 to 12 hours a day, and when you have that kind of passion, you're willing to do anything.
Well, that was the reason why I asked, is because I think a lot of people are reluctant to start doing something because they're afraid they're not an expert, or they don't already have like all the domain expertise of a given thing. And it's like, and more often than not, the people who are successful are the ones that like were kind of naive in the beginning and they don't know what they're getting into, and they just got into it, and they just through sheer grit and determination and passion got to the point of having that domain expertise and knowledge and business business skills. And I think that's a really important thing to kind of emphasize to people who may want to start a project or have a really good idea but are scared to do it because they don't think they're gonna they're not ready yet.
You gotta quit your job. You gotta throw it all.
I'm not saying like let's not go too far, but like you don't have to be an expert to start something. You should just if you have a lot of passion for something and you think you have a good enough idea, you should probably just start doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the way I look at it now is it's important to have some kind of competitive edge when starting a company. A competitive edge can be you have contacts. A competitive edge can be, you have technical skills, but a competitive edge could also just be you have more time that you can allocate than other people, and that you're willing to grind down to the bone.
You mean you're
right?
single and you don't have a family?
Yeah.
Jesse
Or you don't
likes
care
to
about
read between the
Or you don't
lines.
care about those people.
Yeah. So usually I'd say that if you're single and don't have a family and you're passionate about something, no. But I mean, it will require a lot of sacrifice if you don't have some sort of technical or business competitive advantage, right? I just had a daughter recently, and I could say that if I had been trying to do what I did back then with the daughter now, I mean, I don't think I'd sleep. I'd be a zombie.
I have like a 14-month, and it's I could not have done what I have previously done.
Yeah, I don't envy you guys. My girlfriend
I had
has a
another
small child, and it's
So a different aspect we haven't gotten into this that I think is really important that doesn't get talked about much is I'm assuming because you have a consumer facing product and a B2B facing product, so some of your clients are companies, you get a lot of support tickets, and they range tremendously based on expectations of a consumer or problems that go wrong in a myriad of ways, from someone receiving their funds or they mishandled some aspect of it, or you fucked up. And then from companies, it's integrating from various ways to their payroll software, to rules and regulations, compliance, or features that they need, whatever, right? So like that gives you a real good opportunity to figure out where a lot of the problems are, both in what technology is missing in this industry, as well as like the various holes and ignorances that people have with respect to this technology. Like, what have you learned from fielding the myriad of support tickets throughout the 6 years you've been doing this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good question. What have I learned from the myriad of support tickets? I've learned that people get nervous when it comes to their paychecks. Um, the funniest thing that happens is, so this doesn't happen with employees in so much as freelancers. When freelancers sometimes we'll be the first people that they come to complain to when they haven't received their payment, when the company never actually paid them.
Hmm.
Which is a pretty interesting thing. Is someone will invoice a company, and they'll have expected it to be paid, and instead of going to that company and asking them have they paid yet, they'll actually come to us and be like, where's my payment? And we're just like, well, it hasn't come. You should probably reach out to your company. So
Ooh, that's a bad news bears.
yeah. I mean, there's nothing we can do, right, in this scenario,
Yeah.
and it happens pretty often. So I guess that's a pretty interesting pain point, is around sort of the expectations and the speed of freelancers getting paid. Um, the in the general market, and the growth of freelancing and remote work is just astronomical right now. I think there's like $1.5 trillion paid to freelancers globally every year, and that's like up 50% from I think like 3 years ago. So it's really crazy how fast that market is growing.
Yeah. And it's good that you have the intuition to see that market won't always be growing like it is, right? It'll go the other way. Maybe not anytime soon. Like right now, we're experiencing this flux of people freelancing, but it'll go back to people not freelancing, because what will have happened is a small percentage of the freelancers will have done so well now have businesses, right? And they now need to pay employees, right? So that's just a cycle that never ends. And it's good that you're like, oh, okay, well now I've got both of my products. I've got a business product, B2B and B2C. So it's pretty dope, man. Yeah. So like, what's your proudest moment so far in the 4 years? Sorry, not 4 years.
6,
7.
Seven,
7.
7 years since you've been doing this. Your proudest moment. You can
Um,
say birth of your daughter too. You can say that. That's on the
well, yeah, I mean, I love my daughter. I can't.
table.
Besides my daughter, I'd say that my favorite things are happening now. We have users who've been using us since we started. Really old long-term supporters, and they're basically sending tweets out of how transformational BitWage has been, because they've been getting 10% of their salary in Bitcoin since 2014.
Jeez,
Good for
that's
And
them.
transformational.
I love that. That's like, whenever I hear people saying things like, someone in Argentina who says it's a lifeline for them to be able to live, because we have a huge Argentinian customer base as well. Um, uh, these are the things that really move me and get me excited.
What assets do you offer? Like, what's the basket of assets that you offer people are able to receive?
I mean, right now, there's only 3 cryptocurrencies and 4 stable coins. Um, so Bitcoin and Ether. Um, we also have Bitcoin Cash, and then stable coins. The reason why we don't add a whole lot of other coins is because um, it's not like an exchange where people want to be trading with like microcaps with their, if you're getting your salary in something, you're not trying to dollar cost average into some sort of like $10 million microcap coin, right? And then on top of that, there's all sorts of securities law risk around offering certain coins. So we've actually been relatively conservative on which coins that we offer. But internationally, people don't even want things that are not Bitcoin or stable coins or their own local currency. It's only domestically. We are looking at other coins to add right now, but our approach is, what would someone actually want to do a long-term dollar cost average allocation into? This is not something for you to do a big buy and sell in 6 months. That you can't really grow your stash like that through us. This is more for people who are thinking about this long term, thinking about generational wealth of that they're building. This is like a 5-year, 10-year thing. So the people that use us are thinking, I'm going to do this, and in 5 years or in 10 years, I'm going to be way better off than if I had just done than if I had just like tried to buy an exchange and then never done it because I was too scared to, right?
It puts a lot of the burden and thought process out of dollar cost averaging, as opposed to doing it after you receive your salary, putting it into an exchange, and then doing it, or whatever service you use. It's just like all of the thought of doing that is set it and forget it, and then you go with your day. Like our producer has asked the question. She's changing it up here. I'm kind of curious if you even have this type of data. Like, have you seen people change jobs, and what percentage of customers have changed jobs for the better? Like, for instance, like increasing their income.
To be fair, I haven't actually analyzed that part of our data. In terms of, but what I can say is how demographics have changed over the years. So maybe like 3-4 years ago, it was a majority of software developers that were using us. But now it's really expanded into all different parts of the sphere, right? We have marketing people, finance people, consultants. We have traditional investors like VCs or hedge fund people. We have people who are working for the United Nations, coffee baristas. It's the whole gambit. And what this goes to show is how much more diverse the industry has become. I think we used to be 1% women, and now we're 25% women, right? That are using our service.
What about like age, in terms of like age distribution?
Yeah, I mean, we're really talking like the 25 to 40-year-old range. So that's where we see the majority. You don't get a lot of boomers. Don't get a lot of boomers. But I think that's to be expected.
Yeah. That's a good question. How do you manage the fall off or fall out? Well, I guess what I mean by that is, I guess it's since they have their bank account and banking information in there isn't fall off. If they change jobs, they're still sending money to the same bank account. So never mind. I guess I answered my own question.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if they're using the B2C product, they would just take that same bank detail and give it to their new employer. If they're using the B2B product, then they would leave that, but maybe they might decide, oh, I still want to use BitWage. Another interesting thing happens where some people use the B2C product and then they like refer their colleagues use the B2C product, and then they eventually get the company to sign up, and then the company offers it to their
Are there any
employees.
benefits there for say for instance, I am a B2C client of yours, and then I somehow find a way to get my company to just offer this service to everyone. Would that somehow or another give me a benefit? Like, is there a benefit to a company doing this over me using your service in terms of maybe fees taken out or additional features or services that are offered?
Yeah, there are benefits. The first benefit is that the company can pay for premium for you, and a company pays 50% the cost of premium compared to you as an employee. So premium is like $16 a month, whereas premium per employee for a company is $8 a month. In addition, and there's all sorts of different benefits you can see on our pricing page for premium. Additionally, if the company is doing like a large amount of volume, we can get better exchange rates for them. Yeah.
Juicy.
Yeah.
So here's the the elephant in the room. How much does it cost the consumer? How much does it cost a business to
Yeah,
use BitWage?
so business basically doesn't pay anything unless they pay for premium.
Okay.
And the base cost is 1% on FX to crypto, 2% for stablecoins. But that can change depending on a variety of different uses of the platform.
Okay. All right.
Hit him with the standard questions.
Corey, why do you look like you're about to fight somebody? Why do you look so angry?
Probably the way I'm sitting and the lighting. It's very ominous, isn't it?
Look like you're about to box somebody. Oh, sorry. Jesse, do you think? You're first.
All right. Is what you do actually difficult? And you can interpret that to be however you want in terms of difficult.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that the most difficult thing about what we do is managing banking relationships. I don't know how much you know about running a crypto company, but the banks hate crypto companies,
Yes, they
Oh.
and
do.
um,
Mm-hmm.
it's really difficult to do that. So, in terms of a new person starting up, the most important thing is to try to get the banks to trust you, which is really not an easy thing to do. So that's really probably um, the most difficult part of what we do outside of all the cybersecurity that's required to keep the operations secure and flowing smoothly.
On that, here's an opportunity to throw shade or some praise. What banks have you experienced either like being like helping grease the wheels to allow you to get this done, or just make it incredibly friction, like add incredible amounts of friction for people?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I want to name banks specifically.
Wells
Oh,
Fargo, Corey. No, just
But
uh,
let's just say that we have had bank accounts with like maybe 40 different banks, and we have lost bank accounts with like 25 different banks out
yeah.
of 40 that we've had.
Why? What's the
And
They
reason?
don't they don't give
if
you a
you can
reason.
think
They
of
just
a
shut it
bank,
off.
if you
Huh.
can think of a bank, we've probably interacted with them, and likely they just shut us off. The
Mm.
thing is that there are some banks that we are working with now that we have high confidence in, but the downside to working with those banks is the the very rigid requirements of working together with them. So um,
Mm.
uh, it's not that great for the user experience, but at the end of the day, it allows you to actually run a company that's compliant and legal and works, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have to deal with those evils. Um, but yeah, I mean, I can say that I'm not such a great fan of banks.
Like from
with
your
all
perspective, that carries a lot of weight too, because you're someone who's been interacting with them on a probably daily basis for 7 years now.
oh yeah, oh yeah, and the process of them shutting you down is never fun, right? Because
Hmm.
we're just like, okay, we're processing all of these people's payrolls. How do we make sure that there's business continuity? And we haven't ever had an instance where a bank shutdown has caused us to stop our core business operations. Um,
Mm.
We have had to shut down like ancillary lines that may have had like 1 or 2 customers on it, because like we couldn't, we didn't have access to Eastern European currencies anymore or something like that. But in terms of like our base US, EU, and UK, we've never had to stop our operations as a result of that. And being able to pull that off is extremely difficult, I can tell you.
Yeah, hats off to you.
Did one of those banks rhyme with Fells Wargo? You don't have to say. No, I'm kidding.
Stank of Jamaica.
Stank of Jamaica? Is that what
I think that's it.
Yeah, I mean, if you've heard of it, it's probably one of those banks,
Yeah.
So,
And he hates all of them.
I think Snoop Dogg has a bank now. You might knock on that bank's door.
You're selling NFTs at fight things, so you might have some good chances of that one.
Yeah, audience, you heard that right. Snoop Dogg owns a bank. So
Like a local bank?
I don't know. I keep seeing advertisements for it due to my blackness. So
Yeah, I've never seen those advertisements, so those are certainly directed at you.
So I'm just saying it like it is. I'm pretty sure Corey and Jesse aren't getting those ads.
I'm not getting those advertisements.
Yeah.
Hey, baby, you look like you need a bank, baby. Like what the fuck? Anyways, have you thought about
is that actually the advertisement from the bank?
No.
God.
I just saw it and like I took a picture.
Johnathan has not received those advertisements as well.
He has not worked with that bank.
You need a savings, baby. So sorry. I got some here's some have you guys thought of, I know you're really conservative. That's established. Obviously being conservative is way better in the long run. Everybody knows that, it's like, tortoise hair type shit. Everybody gets that. But have you thought of, dwelling in the experimental stuff like, oh, these people can, have, some of their salary automatically go into liquidity pools, and then you got some tokens. Are you going to go token, or are you going to go non-token? Are you always going to be a privately owned company? Like, obviously, you know how to build a company in an innovative space. Have you thought of any of those things?
Yeah, so I think that one of the things, a couple of things that we've been thinking about, I think some kind of direct deposit into a yield account is something that we would do. I'm actually pretty skeptical about that stuff, though. I would not start with.
Sorry.
I would not start with liquidity pools.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably actually start with CeFi. What that is, because at the end of the day with CeFi, you have someone to sue if it goes wrong, right? So that's an added layer. Versus with DeFi and liquidity pools, people can just mess up a smart contract and your money's gone. And I think that CeFi is really the place to start with that. But you can still get yield, right? You can still get yield. So I'm looking at things like that. I also like the concept of fast pay, which is when you get paid outside of your typical payroll cycle. There are already companies doing this without crypto involved in the market that basically connect to your payroll and allow you to get paid as you work. But I'd like to do that with crypto to essentially enable like a near instant cross-border experience for fast pay.
That would be dope.
Yeah,
that would be dope. I'm not gonna, I'm gonna do this. Maybe you should talk to the good people at DeFi Safety that give the grades on what good DeFi protocols are and what aren't, as you do your research for if you go down that pathway. Because like you said, someone could mess up a semicolon and then all of a sudden all the money's gone, right? And I'm being, what's the word I'm looking for? Exaggerating. But if somebody hyperbolic, there we go.
Although that did just happen recently.
Yeah, Sam found another one for $350 million of a very, very relatively simple hack, especially
$350 million one.
$350 million for Sushi
Jesus.
Swap was just saved by Sam. So their brand new miso product had what would be considered a relatively simple problem in the smart contracts that allowed basically around $350 million at current prices to be taken. That was saved. No, there were no problems with anything because he saved it, but what could have been an issue?
Yeah.
Not the 600 million shenanigans that happened with Poly Network.
Yeah, I mean, so it's really and people are getting lucky right now. I mean, because the white hats are currently winning, but I'm sure there'll be a wave of black hats out there that go after that stuff. So again, my conservative hat prefers to start with CFI over DeFi because you can still get that yield. And the money doesn't get lost because of a hack and everything goes away. It would get lost because they've got like a
Market
shitty
factors.
underwriting risk evaluation team that makes terrible loans that default, but it wouldn't be 100% loss. It'd probably be like a 20% or a 30% loss, right? And doing something like that.
I'd like to pull for the audience a nugget of wisdom out of this interview that I found so intriguing that it was a first for me in doing this so long, is that when you were thinking of building this product, one of the first things you did was watch C-SPAN. Like, that to me is hilarious that you were like, you know what? I want to make sure I get the rules right from the jump. So I'm just going to watch C-SPAN for a little while and see how they talk and what's important to them, and then build out from that, cater to the audience that, I want to be future-proof for. So I thought that's a nugget of wisdom to you guys listening that like to move fast and break things. Don't move so fast you find yourself in jail one day for doing something stupid. Why don't you just watch a little C-SPAN for a few weeks, right? Figure out how they talk.
Yeah, I talked to a fellow entrepreneur who he had this interesting wisdom where when you're evaluating the legal environment, right? There's sort of the bar of don't pass is like what will land you in jail, not like what will give you a fine. What's a gray area? It's actually great to work in gray areas. That's the gray area is the best place to work as a startup because you can sort of move fast in an environment that an enterprise can't really move into because it's gray. And you're basically betting on coming out white at the other end of the tunnel, right? That's like the Uber model, really, the Airbnb model. But
that's good advice.
Yeah, but definitely making sure that it's not crossing the line into jail territory is usually a good line to understand and not cross.
Yeah, that's a good way to operate. Well, we'll ask our last trademark question, and you know what? I think this will be good. We'll ask it the same way we asked it the first 2 times you were on, to see if your answer's changed, and that is in 10 words or less. Can you describe Bitcoin?
10 words or less. I would say permissionless, censorship-resistant digital gold.
Okay. That's 5 words. So you passed that test. And, congratulations. And I don't think we have any more questions. Corey, you got any questions?
No, I'm straight. No, it's great. Keep it up, man. This is a service that's never really gonna go away, it can't go away. Basically, the need is always going to be there. So, thanks for sticking with us over the last 7 years.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I guess we'll talk again in 4 years and see how things have changed.
Definitely.
Sounds good.